All right. Well, hello and welcome to today's webinar, Google Classroom Overview. This session is part of a series of free webinars offered every week or two by the Stark Portage Area Computer Consortium, or SPARC for short. SPARC is an information technology center up here in Northeast Ohio where we support about 30 school districts. However, this webinar is open to everyone, and we'd like to welcome all the people who have joined us live today or are watching the recording in the future. My name is Eric Curts, and I am a technology integration specialist here at SPARC, and I will be your presenter for this session. I'm also joined by Anthony Luscre, my co-worker, who will be assisting as we go through this today. All the information for today's webinar can be found at the web link you're seeing up on the screen here, tiny.cc/sparc217. So that's tiny.cc/SPARCC217. And I would encourage you to go to that site if you've not already done so. I'm going to head out there in just a moment to show you what you're going to find there, but that's pretty much where all the resources are going to be found for our session here today. So let me go ahead and pop on over to that site and I'll show you what you should be seeing there. So this is where that will take you. Again, tiny.cc/sparc217. That link will take you out to our tech integration site where you'll find all of the resources for the session today. That will include the live video stream, which you're probably watching right now, and that'll become the recorded video after the session is over. But this is also where you can find session resources, so any information to help support what we're going to be covering here today. In addition, there is a live session chat document here. So if you click on this Google document link, that will open up a Google Doc where you can type in any questions or comments that you have here today. Anthony is going to be monitoring that. And so as questions or comments come in, he'll be sure to relay those over to me if need be, or he may answer them himself, or, hey, you guys can answer each other's questions as well. That is perfectly fine. Yes, we can be all collaborative on this. No problem at all. Below that is the session evaluation. So when this is all done, I'd love to get your feedback, quick form there to fill out. And then below there is there will be a link once this is done. We'll get through the webinar first. There'll be a link to a quiz you can take at the end of the webinar to earn a certificate of attendance, a 1-hour certificate of attendance for watching the training video and passing the quiz. So, give me a few minutes after we're done with the webinar, and I'll go ahead and throw that link in there so that will be available to you after the webinar is completed. Now, while you're at our tech integration site, please be sure to check out a few more things. Let me zoom in just a bit on this so you can see it a little bit better there. There we go. For example, notice that we do have a link to our PD schedule of upcoming events. So after this webinar, we've got some others coming up. Anthony's doing one on web searching. I'm doing one on rubrics a few weeks later. So you can always come back here and check to see the upcoming webinars we have. In addition, we have a link to our recorded trainings, which are the ones we've done in the past. We've got about 16 or so from last year. You can view any of those. We also have a link here to our newsletter where you can sign up for our Sparklines newsletter to always stay up to date with the latest integration information and upcoming PD. And finally, if you need to get in touch with us, there is a contact link there where you'll find our information. Anthony, your picture is not working. Oh, we'll have to get that fixed. Anthony is currently without an image on the page there. You're in incognito mode at the moment. Okay, well, we'll get that fixed for you there. All righty. Well, anyway, let's get back to the presentation for today. All right, so this webinar today is on Google Classroom and an overview of Google Classroom. And the plan today is to cover several things, including how to get into Google Classroom and create your Google Classroom, how to add students, how to add announcements, assignments, and questions, how to grade and interact with your students, how to manage your classroom, and hopefully if we have time, we'll even get into looking at a classroom extension or two to give you some additional features when working with Google Classroom. So that's the idea for the agenda. Now, as far as what you would need to be successful with this session today, you will need a Google Apps account. Classroom is one of the few pieces of Google Apps that you have to have a Google Apps for Education account rather than just a regular Gmail account. Classroom is specific to Google Apps for Education Education. So you will need a Google Apps for Education account. And of course, you'll need access to Google Classroom. Now, depending upon your district, it may be a situation where you can just jump right into it, or you may have to request access to it. So it'll depend upon how your district has that set up. Other than that, it would be helpful if you have a general understanding of Google Docs and how sharing works. Not necessary, but certainly would be helpful, because this is an introductory session. So you should be fine, whatever experience level you have. All right, well, let's go ahead and start off with our overview. This will be really brief, and then the rest of it's going to be all hands-on the rest of the way through. All right, so first of all, sharing and collaborating. That is one of the most powerful features of Google Apps. That's really just what makes people get so excited about using Google Apps for Education, because teachers can share with their students, students can work together in groups, kids can turn things in electronically, you as a teacher can leave comments, you can grade the students' work. Everybody loves sharing and collaborating when it comes to Google Apps. Well, if you do this, though, a lot with your students, which hopefully you do, lots of sharing and collaborating, it can very quickly become a management nightmare. Students might not name their files correctly, or they may not share it with the right permissions, or they may forget to share the file with you at all. And even if they do share everything right, well, where does it go? Well, it goes to your Shared With Me folder, which, if you've got 125 kids and you're doing a couple assignments a week, oh my gosh, that Shared With Me folder is going to explode with hundreds of files to be managed. Now, sometimes we get a little creative, and over the years, educators have come up with some tips and tricks. Usually folders ends up being the way that we get around this. And so we create teacher resource folders and student turn-in folders, and that it does help. It certainly does. But again, that takes time to set up. And again, people can still make mistakes. Students might still not name things right, or they may forget to drag and drop it into the turn-in folder. So that certainly can happen. Well, Google has been watching this over the last few years, and a year ago, they decided to roll out a tool they'd been building to help address a lot of this, called Google Classroom. So to solve this problem, Google Classroom, again, just for Google Apps for Education, was released in the summer of 2014. Now, what is it? Well, basically, Google Classroom provides you with an online classroom site that is private to just you and your students. It allows you to have an announcement stream where you can post questions and students can reply to them. But it also allows you to very easily assign, collect, and grade your student work. The beauty of it is it does all of that behind the scenes stuff for you. Classroom automatically shares the files, organizes them, names them, handles all the permissions for you. So that is a tool that has been a great value for teachers over this last year. And our plan today is to jump in and learn how that works. So let's go ahead and get on with the session. We're going to dive into using Google Classroom. As a reminder, all of the resources for today can be found at tiny.cc/spark217. All right. Well, the last slide, and the only final slide I'll show you here real quick, is just getting into Classroom, and that's where we're going to begin. So what we're going to do is we're going to head over to Google Classroom. If you'd like to follow along, you can certainly fire up your Google Classroom and jump in and try some things out. Where we're going to want to go is to classroom.google.com. And if I go ahead and open up a new tab here, I can certainly just type that in. That will work, classroom.google.com. You can also get to Google Classroom sometimes through the waffle button up in the top right-hand corner of your screen. If you're in Gmail or Drive, you can click on the little drop-down waffle button, and that will also let you get to Classroom. All right. Now, I've used Classroom in the past, so my screen may look different than yours. So what I'd like to do is just show you what it looks like if you've never used it before. So this is my teacher account, but I'm going to temporarily bring up on the screen what it looks like the very, very first time you get there. So this is a student account that I have here now. I'm using test user 41 here for my student today. As I get here and scroll down, you will see this is what it looks like if you've never, ever used Classroom before. The first time you get there, it'll say, welcome to Classroom. It'll say you're signed in as such and such a person. And then over here, it's going to ask you, what are you? Are you a student or a teacher? Now, obviously, you're going to want to say you're a teacher so that you have full access to create classes as well as to join classes. But for your students, of course, we'll want them to say that they're a student. Now, what if somebody chooses the wrong thing? Well, thankfully, your Google Apps administrator can fix that for you. Basically, whenever you choose what you want to be, it just puts you into a Google group called Classroom Teachers. And so if you need to get added to that group and accidentally clicked student, they can fix that, and vice versa. If a student says, I'm a teacher, your Google Apps administrator can remove them from that group. Now, because I am doing this as a student over here, I'm going to say that I'm a student on that account, and you'll see what this looks like for a student. There we go. So when a student first goes and says they're a student, they will now get the Welcome to Classroom page here. And in the very top right-hand corner, they'll have a link that says Join Your First Class, where they can click to enroll in a class. If I pop back over to Being Me, though, as a teacher, this is what you'll see. Now, again, you might see the big chalkboard if you've never done anything yet, but you'll have a plus button up there, similar to my plus button up here, that lets me either join a class or create a class. So if you're a teacher, the plus button gives you two options: joining a class, so you can actually still be a learner. You can join a class, maybe a PD class your district is putting on, but you can also create a class here as well. Now, because I've been using this account before, I already have classes created, and that's what's going to happen. Over time, as you create classes, they'll show up on this little home page of Google Classroom, and so you've got some boot camp classes and some other demo classes and things that I've worked on there. So we're going to create a class here today, and it'll get added to the list as well. All right, good to go. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create my class for the session today. So as a teacher, let me zoom in a little bit here again, just so you guys can see this a little bit better. If I come up here to my plus button and give a click on that, I'm now going to choose Create Class. Now, when I do that, it opens up a screen where I can type in the name of my class. And for today, we're just going to call it Google Classroom Webinar. And then the section, and for what we're doing here today, I'll just go ahead and put in September of 2015. Normally, though, you probably want to think about what you name your class, because in the future, you know, you're going to be doing this for years. You want to make sure that you don't get confused as to, well, which year was this class from? So you'll probably want to include the year somewhere in there, maybe the class period. If you do want to use course and section numbers, that's fine. But put something in there that makes it really clear, so in the future, you won't get confused about which class you're trying to take a look at. All right, let's go ahead and hit create and let her rip. And here it goes. So this is now creating my Google Classroom site. And there we go. As a quick tour of this, you'll see that when Classroom creates the site for you, you do get a randomly selected header image here at the top, and we can talk about changing that here in a moment. And then below that header image, you get a section, you get three different sections. You get a stream, you get a students section, and you get an about section. And we're going to visit all three of those here in just a little bit. But let's go ahead and start with what everybody always is concerned about, which is customizing the look of your classroom. So like I said, Google does randomly just pick an image here for your classroom header. If you don't like what Google picked, no problem at all. You'll notice in the bottom right-hand corner of the header, there's a select theme link. You can give that a click, and it will show you lots of different themes here. And then, there's a good variety of those. You can probably find something there that looks interesting to you. If none of those work for you, there's also a patterns section. You can click on that, and there's a bunch of patterns you can choose from. And if still none of that works, you can also upload a photo. So if you click there, it'll give you a spot where you can either drag and drop a photo over, or you can select one from your computer. I think I can probably grab one off my computer here. I think I had one in my boot camp folder. Yeah, we'll just use this keyboard one. That's fine. And so I can upload an image, in this case, just a computer keyboard. And once it uploads that image, it gives me a little box that I can kind of stretch around here to decide how much of the image I want to put in there. Go ahead and hit select that and give it a moment, and boink, there it goes. It updates that now with the image that I have uploaded. So feel free to customize this either with the themes they provided or by uploading your own photo. All right, looks good. Now, below there, we're going to start getting into the three sections of Classroom: Stream, Students, and About. We're going to go in reverse order, though, because there's really no use to do anything in the Stream yet. We don't have any students. And before we bring any students in, we might want to set up a couple of general things for our class. So I'm going to go over to the About page. And let me zoom out just a little bit. That one's a little tight there. Okay, excellent. So here we go. This is your about page. And basically the idea behind the about page is this is where you could go to put in some general information about your class and also to add some materials that your students may want to use throughout the entire year. So let's go ahead. I'll throw in a few things here. Again, the title of our class, we'll leave it the same. We'll just say it's, whoops, lost my G there. We'll say it's a Google Classroom webinar. And for the description of our class, I pre-typed a few of these things to save a little time there. There's a little description for it. And what room, we're not really in a room here. We'll just say this one's online. There we go. And I can save that. And so there's a little description of my class, and that's fine. But where this gets a little bit more interesting is if I scroll down just a little further on the About page, you'll see there's a section that says Add Materials. Now, if you click there, what you'll see is you get the option to add resources that your students might want to use. Now, because this is the About page, this is more like a global general page for the entire course. This would be a good place to put things that the kids would use the whole year long. So it might be a course syllabus. It could be a link to the digital copy of your textbook. It could be a link to a web resource you guys subscribe to. Maybe you use BrainPop or MobyMax or one of those sort of online resources. You might link that in. So anything that you think the students would benefit from over the course of the year, maybe class rules, maybe a rubric that you use whenever you're grading so they can see what your grading rubric is, things that are more general. So I'm going to go ahead and throw a couple of things in here real quick just to show you what it looks like to add things to your About page. Now, what you'll notice is when I go to add something to the About page, I get 4 options for the things I can add. The first is a paperclip. If I click that, that's going to let me upload a file. So if I wanted to upload something from my computer, the paperclip would do that. The next is the Drive icon. If I click that, that would let me go to my Google Drive and grab a file from there. The next one is a YouTube button that would let me add a video from YouTube. And the last one is a link button that would just allow me to put in a hyperlink to any website or any web resource. So I'm going to go ahead and do a couple here real quick. Let's say we want to do, we'll do a link. So we'll come here and we'll put in a link, and I'm going to paste in the link to our webinar today. So this will be the classroom webinar. And I'll go ahead and add that link, click add, give that a moment to update, and it should go ahead and refresh that here in a second. I'll probably get I haven't hit post yet. Sorry, I forgot to hit post. So I added the link, and now I'll go ahead and hit post and give that a second. Oh, there it is. Now it looks good. And so you can see now somebody comes to my About page, they could come down here and there's the webinar page for our session here today. Now I might want to add other things besides that. So maybe let's go ahead and add maybe the slideshow for the webinar today. I could come into add materials, and this time I could go to my Google Drive, and perhaps I want to pick the slideshow and find it there. There it is. Grab our slideshow. So here's the slideshow, our webinar intro for today. I could go ahead and add that. And we'll go ahead and post that. Excellent. And so now we've got the classroom webinar page. We've got the slideshow added. And maybe I want to add a YouTube video. Maybe I want to add like an intro to classroom. So I could come here to add materials, go down to the YouTube link, and I could paste in a link to a classroom video and post that as well. All right. Whoops. Wants me to give it a title there. Classroom intro, and we'll post that. Excellent. There we go. So basically, guys, you can use the About page if you want to add any sort of resource that you think your students would benefit from over the course of the year. You know, course syllabus, study guides, things like that. Now, before we leave the About page, one other thing that's worth mentioning here is if you need to do co-teaching, if you would like to have another teacher working with you in Google Classroom, this is where you can do that. From the About page, there is a link over here on the side that says Invite Teacher. If you give that a click, you can go out and you can add somebody from your contacts that you would like to invite to be a co-teacher in the class with you. Now, they still have to accept the invitation. It doesn't force them to help you grade your papers for you, but you know, if they are a co-teacher and they do want to work in classroom with you, you can send out an invite there. If they accept it, they will have all of the same rights you do to be able to add assignments and grade assignments and post things to your classroom. All right. Well, let's keep on moving. Let's head to the left. That's the About tab. Let's go to the Students tab. Now, the Students tab is where we're going to go to add students to our class. Now, there's two ways about doing this. One option is to come in and hit the big invite button. And if I click on that, I can do that. That would let me go out to my address book, and then I'd have to go find my students, and then I'd have to send them invites. That's okay, but honestly, that does take a bit of time because you got to find all the kids in your address book and then send them the invites, and they still have to accept the invites. So honestly, I think it's easier if you just have the kids enroll themselves. And that's one of the great things about Classroom is it does give you a class code. And so you'll see it says invite students or give them this code to join. Now, it did generate a code for me. And if for any reason I don't like that code, if it's maybe the O looks like a 0 or the L looks like a 1, notice here in the top right, I can click where it says class code and I can either reset or disable this. So in this case, I do have an O that's maybe an O, it's maybe a 0. If I'm not sure, I could come here and hit reset and it'll give me a new code. This one's a little bit more clear. R5W5D6 sounds like a new droid from the new Star Wars movie. So this is R5W5D6. So anyway, that code I could now give to my students and say, okay, guys, go to classroom.google.com, click on the little plus button and join my class. And that's exactly what I'm going to do with my student account that I have over here. So let me go ahead and I'm going to copy and paste this. So R5W5D6. Let me copy that code, pop over to my student page here. So here I am logged in as my test user. Going to click the little plus in the top and paste in my code. Oops. So paste that code in there and go ahead and click the join button. And maybe, there we go. Sorry about that. And hit the join button, and there we go. It has now enrolled me into the Google Classroom webinar class. Now, if you are watching this webinar and you are trying to type that code in to join, unfortunately, the way Classroom is set up is you have to be in the same domain as the person who's running the class. So because I'm in the apps.spark.org domain, as it is right now, you would not be able to join my class if you were from a different domain. Now, there is an option called whitelisting that your administrator can set up, and it's something beyond what we're going to be getting into here today. Maybe I'll run a Classroom for admins at some point, but basically I can go into the admin console and I can, as an administrator, I can whitelist domains. I can add other school domains. And as long as they reciprocate, as long as they do the same, as long as they whitelist my domain, then I would be able to enroll students from other schools. So if you have, a district on the other side of town or the other side of the world that wants to work with you in Google Classroom, that can be done now. Again, that is through oops, I got some things popping up on the screen here, guys. Sorry about that. That can be done through the admin console through whitelisting of domains. All right. Well, it looks like test user 41's in here. Now, Anthony, you haven't joined my class yet. I'm feeling kind of sad here. So we'll give you a chance to join. So again, R5W5D6 to join that when you do get a chance to jump in there. All right, very good. Well, let's keep on moving, guys. Got a lot more stuff to take a look at. So we've talked about the About page. We talked about adding students, letting students enroll in our class. I'm now going to jump over to the stream, and this is really where the magic happens. This is where things start cooking. So the stream is where I can now interact with my students, and they can interact with me, and this is also where I can make assignments and all kinds of great things like that. So how does that work? Well, when I go to the stream, what you'll see is in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little plus sign. And if I click that plus sign, it'll show me the 4 things I'm allowed to do as a teacher. Now, as a student, if I go there, let me go as a student. Here I am. Let me zoom in just a bit here. As a student, if I come here and hit the plus sign, I only have one thing. I can create a post. So a student can add their own post to ask a question of the class or to ask the teacher or to share something with the class, unless I turn that off, that is. As a teacher, there's 4 things I can do: announcements, assignments, questions, and I can reuse a post. So I'm going to go ahead and create an announcement to start with. So we'll start this off real simple. We'll begin with just an announcement, and then we'll work our way up to some fancier things. What's that? Oh, yeah. Oh, Anthony still needs the link. Okay. He was so busy helping everybody, he didn't get it. R5W5D6. No problem at all. R5W5D6. Rolls right off the tongue there, doesn't it? All right. And so Anthony is joining the class as well to be in there. He was busy in the, oh, there you are, buddy. And there's his picture in case you were wondering what Anthony looked like. He's in there now. And Anthony's adding a bunch of great resources into the shared doc for today. So definitely take advantage of that. All right. So I'm going to go to the stream and I'm going to start by creating an announcement. So if I click on my plus button and I go up and create an announcement, basically what it lets me do is type in anything I want. And just like on the About page, I can either upload a file, I can attach something from my drive, I can attach a YouTube video, I can put in a web link, I can do all of them. I can say, hey, watch this video and then visit this web page and then open this Google Doc. I can string them all together. That's fine. For this, though, I'm going to keep it really, really basic for our example here today. And I'm just going to ask a question. I'm going to say, where did you go over summer break? So maybe this is just a question to kind of get the kids talking and getting some connection between me and my students at the start of the school year. So as my announcement, I'm just going to throw out a simple question. Now, do notice I can choose if I want to assign this to more than one class. Because I have multiple classes, I could check as many as I want, and I could ask the same question or push the same announcement out to all those classes. All right. And again, I could attach a file, attach a drive document, YouTube video, or a link. But for this, we're going to keep it real simple. I'm just going to ask the question, where did you go over summer break? Hit post. And now it's pushing that question, that announcement, I should say, pushing that announcement out to my students. So now if I pop over to being a student, you will see that as a student, I now see that Mr. Kurtz said, where did you go over summer break? And at this point, as a student, I could come in here and I could click where it says add class comment, and I could go ahead and reply to that. I could, give my answer to that comment. So let's say, I'll just say that I'll be a bit of an ornery student, and I'll say that where I went over summer break was I went crazy. And I'm going to go ahead and post that and throw that in there. And Anthony posted as well. He worked at our Google Boot Camps. Excellent. So as the teacher now, I can view these and I can see these comments coming in, and students can see each other's comments as well. If I wanted to, I could continue to reply, click in here and add a comment, or I could come over here and I can click these little dots next to any comment, and you'll see that I have the ability, if I need to, that I could delete a comment if something was inappropriate. Now, this one here where the test user said that he went crazy over the summer, what if I decided, okay, we're getting off topic. That's not really what I wanted you to post, or maybe it really was something inappropriate. Maybe the student is saying something harassing toward another student or something that is, profane or somehow inappropriate. I can, in the announcement stream, I can click the three little dots over here, and I can choose to delete a comment if I want to. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with test user 41 just to show what that looks like. As the teacher, I can do that. And if I go ahead and delete that comment, it looks like poof, it's gone. Well, that's true, except that as the teacher, I have the ability over here on the left-hand side to flip a switch to either show or hide deleted items. So maybe I want to delete it so that other kids don't see it, but maybe I need to bring it back just so I can talk to the parents. So if I turn this on, for me, I can now see slightly grayed out that test user 41 at 4:00 p.m. typed in a certain comment. And that would allow me to be able to show that to parents if I needed to discuss that with them. All right. Now, if I go back over to being the student again, I'll throw in another comment here, and we'll just say that he went to Disney, and we'll post that. So now he's got a more appropriate post. Excellent. The other thing that I can do with a comment, instead of deleting it entirely, is I do have the option from here to mute a student. Now, obviously this comment is perfectly fine, but I just want to show you what it looks like if you were to mute a student. If you choose the three little dots up here and go down and say that you want to mute a student, when you do that, what it does is it will keep them from being able to reply to other people as well as post and comment. Now, they can still submit work and do things like that, but I'm going to go ahead and mute test user 41 and watch what happens. Now, before I mute it, let me pop back over. Here's test user 41. They've got the happy little plus button down here, so they can do posting and they can do all of that. Well, watch what happens when I decide to mute that student. So now I have muted test user 41. If I pop back over to that student, the plus sign is gone. The student is no longer able to post in the announcement stream. Now, I could, of course, come over here and unmute that student. Just come here, choose unmute, and now test user 41 can post again. So it's nice to know you have that ability if you need it. You can, student by student, go in and keep them from being able to post if they've been abusing that. If you need to do it on a broader scale, notice that I can go all the way up to the top, go back over to my Students tab, and from my Students tab, there is a more global setting in the drop-down menu here that would affect all of my students. And notice I've got three options. The first is that students can post and comment, meaning that if they want to reply to something I posted, they can. If they want to reply to another student, they can. If they want to start their own post, they could generate their own question or comment for the class. I could downgrade this, though, to students can only comment. Now, if I do that, that means I can post questions and comments, and I can put things out there, and they could reply to them, but a student would not be able to generate their own new post. Or I could take it all the way down to only the teacher can post or comment. And if I do that, then it's just one-way communication. The students can just receive what I'm posting. They cannot reply to it or create their own post. Now, going to jump up on my soapbox here for just a moment and say, if possible, I would definitely encourage schools to give students the ability to post and comment as much as possible. And here's the reason why. Although certainly we are teaching our students math and science and social studies and language arts and all those important core skills, absolutely. We're also teaching them digital citizenship. It's important that our students learn how to collaborate, how to work together, how to responsibly use technology. And here's the thing, they're going to make mistakes. That's a given. We have to realize that. We did too when we were kids, and we still do as adults. We make mistakes when we learn new things, and that's okay. Here's the thing, folks. I would much rather our students make mistakes in a safe environment like Google Classroom, where if something gets posted that's inappropriate, it's not on the web, it's not out there on Twitter or Facebook for the whole world to see. It's just within Classroom, and it's clearly documented. I can see who said it, when they said it. I can delete it, I can bring it back up, and I can give that student appropriate consequences if they did something wrong. Now, the thing is, if we don't give them those experiences, they're still going to make the mistake. But they might make the mistake when it costs them a lot more. It might be they may lose a job, or they may lose a college scholarship because of something inappropriate that they post online. So honestly, I would encourage you to take advantage of what Google has given you here in Classroom with a private closed forum where students can learn appropriate use of technology. Now, if there's a problem, yeah, absolutely. Maybe part of the punishment is you mute the student or you temporarily turn off their ability to post and to comment. But if you can use it, I think it is a great option. So that's the first thing you're able to do in Classroom is you can post announcements. Now, I'd say most people probably use these for things like reminders of upcoming tests and quizzes, maybe content that they want the kids to view, like, hey, I'm going to make an announcement and throw out a YouTube video. Guys, watch this video before you come to class, or visit this website, or read this document. It can also be good if you just want to have a discussion that's not graded. You just want kids to be able to brainstorm some ideas. This is also a good way if you want to give a Google form quiz. Until Classroom adds that feature, which I understand they are working very soon on an option to easily add a Google form quiz to Classroom. In the meantime, this is a pretty good way. If you come in here and say you want to add an announcement, this is a pretty good way to be able to use the link feature to put in the link to your live quiz if you've created a quiz with Google Forms. Now, keep in mind, if you do that, it's basically you're just giving them the link. When they click that link in the announcement, it'll open up the form. They can take the quiz. And if you use like Flubaroo to grade it, that's perfectly fine. That's wonderful. We've actually got 2 webinars I've done on that exact topic, and you can check those webinars on online assessments with forms and Flubaroo. The thing is, it's not going to feed back into Classroom. There's nothing in Flubaroo that then goes and talks to Google Classroom and puts the grades into Classroom. At the moment, any quiz they would take through a Google form, it's going to be separate from Classroom, other than the fact that you're going to give them the link to it in an announcement. Say, hey, kids, here's the quiz for today. Click this link to take the quiz. All right? All right. Well, let's move on to something a little bit more in depth. So that's announcements. What else can we do in Classroom? Well, the next thing we can do is we can add assignments. So now I'm going to click on the plus button and I'm going to go up to create an assignment. All right. Now, when I create an assignment, it looks pretty similar to announcements. You've still got the same buttons, upload a file, drive, YouTube link. A lot of it's similar. But the big difference is this is now going to be something that is graded, and it's something it's requiring some kind of feedback from the student. So maybe they're filling out a Google Doc, or they're creating a slideshow, or they're making a drawing, but they're doing something to submit back to me. All right. So what I'm going to do for this one here is we're going to do a math vocab worksheet. We'll keep it pretty basic here. We'll just do a math vocab worksheet. And if I want to, I could put in some directions there, but this will be pretty self-explanatory. Below there, I can pick a due date for it if you want. Now, you can turn the due date feature off. There's an option to have no due date, or if you turn that on, you can come in and pick the date and time that you want that assignment to be due. So I'm going to do a math vocab worksheet for the kids. I need to grab the worksheet. Now, it could be, a PDF that I upload, but I'm going to go with a Google Doc so that we can keep this all in the Google ecosystem here. So let me go ahead and we'll click on my drive, and we're going to we'll type this in. We'll look for our math vocab worksheet. There it is. Grab my math vocab worksheet. There we go. Okay, so I've grabbed my Google Doc that I created ahead of time for my math vocab worksheet. And at this point, really all I have to decide is how am I going to push this out to the kids? And you'll notice that in addition to giving it a title, a description, a due date, picking the Google Doc, I can now come over here to the right, and I have 3 levels of how I can push this out to the kids. Now, the first one says students can view the file. If I choose that, then basically they're just going to be able to see that Google Doc, read it. It's just going to be information. They're not going to be able to type on it or do anything with it. So it's just like, here, read this document, read this article, read this story. Okay. The second option down is students can edit the file. Now, if I say that, that means they can all edit the same file. That would be for a collaborative project. So that means everybody is actually typing inside of the same Google document. Now, that may work very well in some cases. It doesn't make sense for this one, but it might work great. Let's say the project is you want the kids to do a collaborative slideshow. So you could start up the slideshow. You could link it in from Google Drive, and then you could say students can edit the file, which means every student is able to work on the same slideshow. Maybe each student does one slide of their own, and they, share a favorite fact about Ohio, or do something about a favorite animal, or whatever the case might be. It could be a Google drawing. Maybe you're using our webinar I did on Google Drawings for graphic organizers. And maybe you grab one of my graphic organizers of a Venn diagram and you add that in as a Google Drive file, and you give everybody edit rights to it. And all the kids all together at once can drag and drop pictures into the Venn diagram to work as a whole class activity. Well, that's not going to make sense for this one, though, because I'm doing a math vocab worksheet. I'm expecting each student to fill this out. That's where the third option comes in. Make a copy for each student. That's what I'm going to choose. Now, the beauty of this is what it's going to do is it's going to take my original Google document, and it is going to make a copy for each student. It's going to name it after the student. It's going to share it with the student and share it with me. And it's going to put it inside of a happy little folder for them and for me, all of that all at once. So all those things we used to labor over trying to do when we were working on sharing and collaborating and didn't have Classroom, boom, it does it all for us all at once. So there we go. Let's try that out. So I gave it a title, a due date. I linked in my Google Doc. I'm going to say make a copy for each student. Now all I have to do is go ahead and assign that out to my class. So let's go ahead and hit the assign button, and whoosh, it is going to send that out. Now, I don't have a very big class here. It's just my pretend student and Anthony. So normally this is a little bit more, exciting when you have a whole bunch of kids in there. It's just going to be a few of us here today, but that's okay for our demonstration. You will see now as the teacher, I now have the math vocab worksheet, and I see 0 done and 2 not done. If I pop over to my student account now, and I update my screen here, you will see that I now have an assignment math vocab worksheet due tomorrow. And there's an open button I can click to open it up. Let's go ahead and try that. So I go ahead and open up my, my assignment. And once I get on there, you're going to see that it gives me that math vocab worksheet linked in right here. So as the student, I don't have to make a copy of it. The kids don't have to know, okay, open up my view only copy, then you make a copy of it. Nope. The student already has it created. They can just come right in here, give a click on their document. And as they do, their own copy of that worksheet opens up that they can now go ahead and start filling out. All right, let me zoom in a little bit on it just so we can see it a little bit easier here. All right, so at this point, this is our math vocab worksheet. I was a math teacher and I am a father of 4, so I have very a great love for puns. So you'll either love this or hate this, so I apologize in advance. But as a previous math teacher and a current dad, I can't help but do it. So, okay, here we go. So the student's going to come in here and they'll start filling this out. Question number 1, an angle that is never wrong. Anthony, you probably already got this, didn't you? Oh. Oh, okay. You're assisting some folks and doing some other things. Okay, so an angle that is never wrong, of course, a right angle. And then an attractive angle, that would be acute angle. And then let's say that as the student, I get kind of stuck here. So I know that an angle that's never wrong is a right angle. The attractive angle is acute angle. When your parrot flies away, I'm looking for math vocabulary. When your parrot flies away, maybe the student kind of stalls out there. Well, here's where things get really exciting with Google Classroom. Let me pop back over to being the teacher. So I'm the teacher again now. As the teacher, if this was a non-Google Classroom assignment, if this was just the old days of, paper and pencil or just regular Google Docs, if I gave an assignment that was due 2 Fridays from now, well, chances are I would not see the assignment until 2 Fridays from now. If I'm lucky, some kids might even be late. But the point is, I would give an assignment and then I would not see it for, a week or days or whenever it's going to be due. That's not the case with Google Classroom. Remember what I said, when Google Classroom created that assignment, what it did was it made a copy for each student, it shared it with the students, and it shared it with me. As the teacher, guess what? You don't have to wait for a student to turn something in for you to check on how they're doing. You can look at it, you can intervene, you can connect with the student now rather than having to wait until they turn it in. So as the teacher, I see one is done and one is not done. Well, maybe I'm a little worried about test user 41. He struggles. He's kind of slow getting started, or he gets started and he has a difficult time. I can come here and click on the not done. It'll pop me over to a page where I can see this assignment. Now, here's Anthony. He's up in the done group. He's the teacher's pet. Down under not done, I see test user 41. And over here, I see his assignment. Now, if I had a bunch of kids not done, they'd all show up there. Well, I can come over here and I can click on test user 41's Google document. And I can open it up right now, even though they haven't turned it in, even though the assignment's not due yet, because it was sent out through Google Classroom, I can now open up the assignment and I can see how they're doing. This is a fantastic tool. What a great way for you to be able to see how the students are progressing, check on their work, and give them feedback. And you can use all of the feedback methods that we're used to using. You could, if the student is live in the document with you, like mine is right now, I could click the chat button and I could say something like, how are you doing? And I could even, chat live with them. And then that, the student, of course, they would see that pop up and then they could reply and they could say something like, I'm stuck. And we could have a conversation. So maybe that's what we would do. We could have a live conversation back and forth between the student and myself. Okay. Or maybe I want to leave a comment for them. Okay. I could come in here where it says when your parrot flies away. That's what he's stuck on, is when your parrot flies away. I could highlight that one, come up to insert and go down and insert a comment, for example. If I click on insert comment, I'll get a little pop-up here over to the side, and I could leave him a hint. I might say something like, hint, many parrots are named Polly. And so like Polly wants a cracker. So I'll go ahead and leave a comment there, letting him know, hey, parrots are sometimes named Polly. And so the point is I can interact in tons of ways. I could even just type in here if I wanted to. I could click down here and blah, 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 blah. I could type right into the document as well if I wanted to. So the point is I'm able to interact and intervene with my students well before the due date. And that can help me with a student who may be struggling or might need some additional assistance. Now, the student at that point could say, oh, that's great. Mr. Kurtz said many parrots are named Polly. So when your parrot flies away, oh, I get it. It's polygon. Ha, ha, ha. Very funny, Mr. Kurtz. And then maybe he's back on the path again to be in favor of farm machinery. Did you get that one, Anthony? What is that? Protractor. Yes, I am protractor. I hope you're protractor as well. We're in favor of farm machinery. All right. So now the student can keep going and tell you what, I'm going to have this student do one more thing. Let's say they get stuck on this last one when what the acorn said when it grew up. And let's say the student says, you know what, I do not know this one. And you know what, I'm just going to delete it. I'm just going to take that off. Mr. Kurtz won't even notice that I have removed that. I'm not even going to answer that one. I'm just going to get rid of it. It's not even there. It wasn't on my sheet. And now the student is all done with the assignment. And you'll notice that they have a button that's not normally inside of Google Docs. Up here in the top right-hand corner, there's a turn in button. So when the student is done, they don't have to know how to share. They don't have to, well, they still should know. That's a very important thing, but they don't have to share. They don't have to drag and drop it into a folder. They don't have to rename it. They just click the turn in button. And when they do that, it's going to ask, are you sure you want to do that? And I go, yes, I am. And ta-da, the student has now turned in their assignment. So at this point, the assignment has been turned in. If I pop back over to being a teacher now, and I take a look at this assignment, you'll now see that 2 are done and 0 are not done. So at this point, I could come in here, go to the 2 that are done. And again, I could open them up. I could grade them. I'm going to go ahead and click on test user 41 here, open his up. And so I could pop back in there and I could, do whatever I need to do with this, whether it's, again, leaving marginal comments, whether it's typing in the bottom, inserting a rubric, which actually that's my next webinar 2 weeks from now. I'm going to do one all on rubric tools for Google Docs. So that'll be a nice follow-up on how to insert rubrics into your Google Docs as you grade them. So maybe that's what you're going to do with it. Well, the other thing is, don't forget, you've got all of the tools of Google Docs at your disposal, including revision history. So maybe I need to take a closer look at what happened as the kid filled out this document, including the fact that, hey, wasn't there a number 5 here at some point? What happened to question number 5? I could come here, go to File, and choose See Revision History. Now, this is nothing special to Classroom. This is just part of Google Docs. Google Docs and slides and drawings and sheets, they keep track of your revision history. So I could click File, See Revision History, and I could go back through time and I could see every change that's ever been made to this document. So I could say, okay, let's see. Today at 4:19 p.m., test user 41 deleted that. Oh my goodness, look at that. He deleted that right out of there. And I could go back to 4:18. He typed in polygon and protractor. Keep going back. And as I go back in time, I could see he typed in acute angle there. He typed in right angle there. You get the idea. Revision history is a powerful tool. Again, nothing special about Classroom. This is just built into Google Docs to allow you to be able to go back in time and see every change your student has made to a document, which is great if you need to see what changes they've made when you made suggestions for them to improve things. It's great for group work to be able to see who did what and how people contributed. It's also, unfortunately, useful if a student plagiarizes or if they put something inappropriate in a document and then later on try to remove it, or in this case, if they decide they just want to take one of the questions out. Everything is tracked by date and time and by user. So revision history is a very powerful tool that you can use. I'm going to pop back over here now after seeing that and say, okay, I'm done grading this student. Tell you what, I'm going to give them on this assignment. It's only a 5-point assignment, just 5 questions. So we'll update the point value. I'm going to give Anthony 5 out of 5. We'll say he did a great job. And this test user, I'm only going to give him 4 out of 5 because he did not answer all the questions. There was one that he had not answered yet. And I could actually even go in here, and if I wanted to, I could go into revision history and I could even put that question back. So I could come back here to the time when he deleted it, go back 1 click earlier when it was there, and I could click restore this revision to restore the question he took out. There we go. So it's back now. And I can even leave a note and say, please finish this. All right. So I'll go ahead and give them their grades now. So Anthony's going to get 5, test users are going to get 4. I can now hit the return button, and that will send those assignments back to the students with their grades. So at this point, those are being sent back to the students. Test user could pop over here and see, aha, this has been returned to me. So there is his math vocab worksheet. It says it's been returned. If I open it up, he'll see that the grade he got was 4 out of 5. He'll go, oh, why did I get 4 out of 5? He could come in here, click on the document, open it up. And when he opens up the document, he can now see that I have reverted it back to the earlier version from when he had deleted question 5. And there it is. And he'll be like, all right. And so he works a little bit at it and he figures out. Anthony, what did the acorn say when it grew up? I want to be. No, he says, gee, I'm a tree. Geometry. All right. I know they're terrible. These jokes, they're awful. But anyway, so there we go. So he could correct that. And the thing is, the student is allowed to resubmit this. They can turn things back in. It doesn't have to be a one and done sort of thing. He could click the turn in button up here, or he could close out of that and use the resubmit button here, and he could send that back to me so that I would have the opportunity to regrade it. Now, of course, as a teacher, you don't have to regrade something, but actually I think that's a fantastic thing to do because, think about it, guys, learning, we're in a standards-based environment. We're trying to achieve standards. We're trying to get our students to reach a certain level. Well, not every student is going to meet that standard the first time. The story I usually share is, if I were to ask people, did any of you not pass your driver's test the first time you took it? And my guess is there'd be some folks listening who said, yeah, it took me 2 or 3 times. And my question then would be, well, does your driver's license have a different color because of that? Is there a special note on it or a sticker or a warning? Well, no, you get the same driver's license everybody gets, even if it took you 2 or 3 times. Well, the same thing's true with our students. Some students may hit the standard first try. Others may take a second try, a third try. And what's beautiful is Google Classroom is built to support that. Google has designed this to allow students to resubmit work and for you to be able to give them encouragement and comments to have them revise things. Then they can go back through and correct it and resubmit it again, and you can go back in and regrade it. So I could come in here and I could reopen this student's document, and I could come here and I could regrade it, and I could give them a 5 this time and return that to them again. So great that Google Classroom supports that. All right, we are getting close to the end of our time, and I still wanted to mention a couple of things. So the last few things I'm going to hit kind of quick here, but in addition to creating announcements and assignments, just in the last few weeks, Google added a couple of new things, including the ability to create what's called a question. Now, the idea behind creating a question is it's very, very similar to creating an announcement, except it's gradable. It's like a gradable announcement. So if I were to come here and say something like, what is one of your favorite Google tools? If that was my question, I could push that out, not as an announcement, but as a gradable question. Now, again, I could attach Drive files and videos and links. Hey, watch this video, go to this website, then answer. That'd be fine too. Well, I'm going to go ahead and ask this as a question, and you'll see it ask me, do I want to let students see each other's answers? And you can say yes or no. I'm going to say, yeah, that's fine. And I'll go ahead and hit the ask button. And now I've sent that out. So it's a hybrid. It's partly an announcement in the sense that the student isn't really going to be submitting like a document or a slideshow. They're not creating something. They're just answering a question. So it's a lot like an announcement in that, like we did earlier with where'd you go over summer break. But it's like an assignment because it has an expectation that it's going to be filled out and graded. So I could pop over to being the student now. And if I was the student, I now see, oh, I've got due tomorrow. What is one of your favorite Google tools? And I could say something like, I love Google Hangouts. And he could submit that. And once he does, now he would have the right to see his classmates' answers. So in addition to submitting his answer, he could now see what other people have answered. Anthony, I can't spreadsheets. Never would have guessed it. Never would have. Anthony is our spreadsheet guru here. And you could have it be that when you go to grade this now as a teacher, you could say, okay, kids, you have to reply to my question, and maybe they have to reply to somebody else's comment. So it could be part of the assignment is don't just answer it, but also reply to what somebody else said. So this could be a great way to have a safe, private, controlled forum where students could have a discussion. And again, I could now come in here, I'll make it worth 1 point, and I could give everybody a point for that. Good job, Anthony. Good job, test user. Go ahead and return that. All right. Well, we are about out of time, but I do want to squeeze in a couple of other key points that I want to let you know that I was hoping we would have a little bit more time, but there's never enough time, is there? We'll run over just a little bit just to squeeze some of these in. One of the other new things they've added is the ability to reuse a post. So if you have classes from the past that worked really well and you want to reuse things from them, you can now hit the little plus button, go to reuse post, and you can pick any of your previous classes, even ones that are archived, and you can pull up announcements, questions, assignments from those and reuse them in your new class, which is great. Helps save some time. Another thing that is kind of new worth throwing out there is the ability to bump things to the top. Notice we've got 3 things here now. Well, what if I still wanted people to see this announcement and it's getting pushed down the page? You now have the ability to hit the little dots at the top of any one of your posts and say, move to the top. And if you do that, boink, it'll move it all the way up to the top. So it gets a little bit better notice. Another thing to mention is when I'm done in this class, if I want to move back to my main screen up in the top left-hand corner, there's a little button here that will take me to any class I want to go to or back to my main screen. From here, I can now jump to different classes, or if need be, I can archive a class. So let me show you how that works. If I have a class in the past that I don't need anymore, I can hit the little dots on this main home page and I can choose to archive a class. If I do that, what it does is it moves it into a special archive screen. So it no longer shows up on the main page here, but it's still there. If I go to my little menu button in the top left and I scroll down, I can find archived classes, and there they are. Any classes I've archived are still there. I can go in there, click the dots to restore them or permanently delete them if I want to. I'll restore class 3 just so you can see how it pops it right back. Now, if something is archived, it still is available. You don't lose access to it. You just can't submit any new things to it. So like if I wanted to reuse a post from an archived class, that's fine, but nobody can submit new information to it. All right. And if you do delete a class permanently, it does delete the class, but it does not delete the files. Everything that we've been looking at here in Google Classroom, even though this is all really friendly and easy to use, honestly, folks, it's just sitting on top of Google Drive. It's sitting on top of all the things we've ever done in the past. So if I were to come over here and if I were to open up Google Drive, well, my computer's low on memory. No, don't do that. Okay, I won't open Google Drive. I've got too many windows open. But the point is, in the background, all of this is still being saved in a classroom folder in Google Drive. So it looks really fancy and happy on the outside here, but really in the background, Google Drive is still setting up folders and files for you in the background. All right. Well, we're pretty much out of time. I did want to talk about a few other cool things. I guess the last thing I'll mention is there is a really neat extension, and I've got it linked in on the page for today. So if you go into our webinar page for today, which again was at, what page was that at? There we go. tiny.cc/spark217. If you go to that resource page, I do have linked in some really neat extensions. There's an add to classroom extension and a share to classroom extension. Just wanted to let you know, though, there are some neat extensions that are available that allow you to easily take things that you find while you're out on the internet and share them to your classroom. And I've got both of those installed here. We won't have time to really go into detail with them, but I'll just let you know. For example, if I go up to the share to classroom button, I can click on that button, and from there I can pick any class I would like to share this web page with. So I could come in here and I could choose the webinar class for today, for example, and I can do three things. I can either push that web page to my students. So if they have that extension installed, it'll actually open up that web page right on their device for them. It'll push it right out to them. Or I could make an announcement or create an assignment from that page. So there are some nice extensions out there, LinkedIn, that you can use to grab a web page and push it to your kids or add it to your classroom very easily. Oh, well, I'd love to talk much more about Classroom, but I want to be sensitive to everybody's time, and we have approached the hour, so I'm going to start pulling things together. Anthony, were there any really big questions hanging out there that we didn't get a chance to answer?
We had great cooperation amongst all the attendees today, and everything is answered. So thank you for those people that helped me answer questions today.
Oh, that is fantastic. Well, again, and this was designed to be an overview for Classroom, so very likely, maybe we'll do a classroom part 2 and can dive into some of the more sophisticated things. But I hope this gives you guys a nice, solid foundation to get started with. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll start pulling this together here then. So as we wrap up, just a reminder for you that everything that we talked about today can be found at tiny.cc/spark217. That jumps you right on out to that tech integration page where you're going to find the recorded video for this session. You'll find the resources for this session. The live chat document will still be there. There is the session evaluation. So again, please do fill that out. We love to get your feedback. Helps us improve these webinars for the future. And shortly, there will be a link there for the quiz so you can get your certificate of attendance. Definitely fill that out. While you're there, be sure to visit our PD schedule to see our upcoming sessions that we'll be running. Take a look at our recorded trainings to see ones in the past that you might want to catch that we've got from last year. Sign up on our newsletter so you don't ever miss anything new coming out from Anthony and I. And of course, the contact link is there if you need to get in touch with any of us. Let us know. Yeah, and Anthony said, let us know if there's anything in particular that you would like to learn more about. We're always looking for ideas of sessions that would be valuable to you. Well, thank you guys again so much for taking the time to watch this session today. We hope to see you again over the coming weeks for more educational technology webinars. Take care. Thanks.